Well, hello and welcome. I'm Andrew Banson from the Civil Site Design development team. In our webinar today, we'll be exploring the latest updates and features added to our software this year. I'll also provide a sneak peek into the upcoming version 25, which promises to bring some great advancements. I will be guiding you through a live demo of this year's release, but first I'd like to start off with a brief PowerPoint presentation just to highlight the key aspects of version 24 and, as I mentioned, share some of the already confirmed features for V25. So this year kicked off with a significant enhancement, the debut of the Toolspace. It bears a striking resemblance to the Civil 3D Toolspace, allowing you to see created objects. You can run commands via a right click. Our ribbon was becoming increasingly congested, and we were finding it hard to accommodate new commands that we were creating, adding to the software. So it was turning into a bit of a clutter. So I think the implementation of the Toolspace really does enhance the overall experience in civil site design. We touched on this in the poll. A major project for our team this year was implementing high DPI support. In recent years, we've seen customers attempting to use CSD on high DPI monitors, but the usability was far from ideal. It took us several months this year, and we fixed over 800 forms in the software. And as we were working through resolving these form issues, we also took the opportunity to redesign many of the forms as well. So I use a 4K monitor now as my main monitor, and it's amazing. It's sort of like when I switch back to the normal monitor, it's almost like that transition from when you're watching TV and you accidentally turn on a standard definition channel. So that difference in clarity is noticeable. So ScriptX. ScriptX is a scripting language that we developed for the modifications of cross sections. We released it this year without much fanfare. Essentially, they allow you to craft your own variations, and I'm particularly excited about this feature, and I will delve in a lot deeper into it today. Version 25 marks a significant milestone for us as we transition to a new development framework, Microsoft Net 8, which only recently was released. And so to lay the groundwork for this change, we've started optimizing various parts of our software. Notably, in version 24.2, we revamped the design model update process, and we started to introduce multi-threading into the software. So the cross-section viewers are now running off different threads. So if you make a change to an IP in the VGE, the cross sections updating are updating on different cores, and so most people have multi-cores. Software companies like us should start to make use of those, which is what we're doing. So I certainly recommend you update to 24.2, particularly if you're doing large jobs, large subdivision projects. You will notice the speed, particularly as you edit IPs and update models. So look, I mean, there's been many other enhancements to CSD throughout this year, which I will showcase in the live demo. I've listed some here, and that sort of came to mind as I wrote this slide, but I will run through these in the demo. So on the screen is a screenshot of a driveway layback crafted using ScriptX. So ScriptX extends your ability to modify cross sections, and in many ways surpassing what you can do with just the standard variations. And this is largely stems from the ability to integrate logic operations within your scripts. So things like if this, do this, and add in for loops and that type of thing. But even if you don't see yourself as someone who's coding scripts, then it could well be the case that you simply benefit from using ones that others have created. And I will demonstrate this driveway layback script. In fact, I wrote a blog article on ScriptX last week, and I included a download to this particular script that you can download and use. But I'll show this in the live demo as well. OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, I'm sure most of you have played with ChatGPT, just recently turned 1 year. They recently unveiled custom GPTs. So we developed our own custom GPT trained specifically for ScriptX output. This is actually pretty amazing. You can tell the custom GPT what you're wanting to do, and it will generate a script that will achieve that task for you. So I've got some basic examples, and I will show this off as well in the presentation. But I've said something like, I want to fix a code to a level, something very simple, and it's created a script that allows me to do that. Currently, no variation that allows you to fix a code to an elevation. You'd have to create a string to do it. But we'll have a bit of a look at this in more detail as well. So on to the version 25 release. A few months ago, we actually began work on V25. And the primary catalyst for this early start was because we need to transition to Microsoft Net 8. And this is a move that promises significant performance enhancements for CSD, building on a modern framework. This shift also means that we need to introduce a new licensing system. The system that we've adopted accommodates cloud-based licensing, and this is a feature increasingly requested by organisations who want to transition from the traditional network licensing. In saying that, the new system we will continue to support all existing licensing methods as well. Okay. We've completed the development of a new surface and strings export command, and the screenshot shows you the new feature where you can preview your data and then directly export to formats such as 12DA and DWG. And next year, we plan to further integrate with the 12DA file format. And additionally, the Surface export now includes support for TIFF and DEM files as well. We're planning on revamping the variations interface, and we will be developing a user-friendly UI for ScriptX scripts. So, for instance, the driveway layback that I just showed could be integrated just like any other variation. And the UI means that the user can select objects and input values via a UI rather than editing values directly in the script. Okay. So look, there's a lot of other development happening at the moment. We're quite busy. We're also working on a new pipes module, but we will talk more about that next year. Okay, so with that, let's jump into the live demonstration. Okay, so I guess the first thing to talk about is the Toolspace, which I'm displaying on the right-hand side here. And I've actually on purpose minimized the ribbon. So for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to just drive all commands from the Toolspace. So the Toolspace is split up into two parts. We've got data and resources. And under resources, this is where you can access training data. You can go visit our YouTube channel, the blog. This is a recently launched blog with some articles, and that's where you'll find the driveway layback there as well. So a lot of important resources are found here. But the data tab is great. I mean, firstly, it'll list all the objects that you've created. So in this job, I've got some alignments. I can see as I hover over an alignment, it'll highlight in the drawing for me. It might be a little bit hard to see, but I've got a little green tick next to View Street, and that indicates that the alignment is being used. If I expand out road strings, I can see that View Street has been created as a road. And so the beauty of a right-click sort of contextual interface is I can do things like right-click on that particular road and just directly open things like the vertical grading editor or the cross-section viewer. And we will be adding more commands to this Toolspace for next year. A lot of people have requested the ability to right-click and just plot a cross-section or plot a long section. So things like that we're planning on adding in V25. Look, most commands that are currently on the ribbon, we want to integrate into here. If I expand out templates, I get a list of all the templates currently in the job. And if I hover over a template, I get this nice little preview of the template. Similar to alignments that are in use, if a template is in use, I get this little symbol with the green tick, indicating that, in this case, it's used by that road that I created. If I right-click, I can click on Edit Template and edit that template directly. So in the template editor, we've made a few changes. Some are very minor, and I'll try and pick up on a lot of the minor changes that we've made as well. So with the template editor, you can actually maximize it now, put it onto another screen, make it bigger. We did add a file menu system, so you have sort of quick access to creating a new template, copying templates, deleting them. One of the core new features is the ability to import and export template packs. So you might have a bunch of templates that you've created that maybe you want to hand to a colleague or use for a particular set of work that you do. You can export that to file, go to the other computer and import those templates. And when you import them, you can actually cherry pick the ones you actually want to bring in to the project. This is also a long requested feature, improving the ability to share templates. And the template pack is basically a zip containing all the template files. If you didn't know, last year we added right-click editing in the template editor as well. So we can right-click, edit curve, edit sections, etc. I'm showing that because maybe you weren't aware of it. Another feature we added this year in the template editor is this display button. And so whenever you see this cross-section displayed on cross-section viewers, you can now customize the colors and the line weight. So, maybe you wanted the subgrade to be a different color. Maybe you wanted a different background color. So on the cross-section viewers, you can customize how they look. Okay, so that's enough of the template editor. What I'm going to do now is dive in to a bit more detail on the improvements we've made in the design data form. So I'm going to right-click and open up the design data form for the row that I've created. So a couple of things here, and some minor things that you might not be aware of if you have updated. Firstly, there's this recalculate button, and if I run that, it simply reruns the design data. It could be very handy to have access to this button just to do a recalc, and I'll show why in a sec. I'm going to add a variation, and what you can do now is rather than highlight and click on add entry, you can just double click. So I can just double click to add a variation there now. Two new variations we added this year. One is set code offset to polyline, and the other one is the ScriptX, which I'll show later on. So I want to click on set code offset to polyline, and it's basically the same as set code offset to alignment, but you're referencing a polyline. But we took the opportunity to add a few extra options to it. So in the drawing, what I've done is I've created this polyline, and I'm using this polyline to control the footpath, the inner part of the footpath and the outer part of the footpath. Okay, so it's one single polyline. So let's start with the inner part, which will be this code here. RFPI, and I'm going to pick a start chainage and an end chainage. So the widen method's the same as the alignment method. Do you want to project at the current slope? So I'm going to say yes. Then we pick the polyline. And this is new. So this part here is the offset method. And I've got two options, nearest or furthest. So on each section, the first point, that's the nearest, that'd be the nearest point you would find on the polyline, and that would be the furthest point. So we can choose what we want to attach to. And I'm going to say nearest and go add update. And you can see that that polyline has matched to the first intersection point that it found. So some cool things that we added. One is additional offset. So if I go, extra 5 meters, I reference that polyline and then extend it out another 5 meters. I can put negative values in there as well. Now, if I zoom in really close, I can see the orange polyline, and currently my footpath doesn't, my width is changing here, and that's sort of just because of sectional design. But what I want to do is tell the software that the outer footpath is to match this orange polyline here. So what I'm going to do is create a copy of that variation and say the right footpath outer is going to find the furthest point found on that polyline. So if I click on add update, then you can see we've matched that. So I think the widened polyline's a good addition. The fact that you don't, if you want to do some widening without, having to create an alignment. And what I might do is just grab that polyline and make some sort of stupid changes. I'm just going to increase the width of the footpath here. Okay, so I'm just changing the polyline. Okay. So if I just click recalculate, you can see it's recalculate and update that variation. So beforehand, I would have to sort of, one thing I used to do is make a change to the variation. So this add update button would appear. Now you don't have to worry about that. You can just go straight to recalculate. Okay, so that's a new variation I just wanted to show you. Let's jump into ScriptX. And I'm just going to do some very basic examples of ScriptX. And I understand that scripting might not be for everyone, but I just want to sort of show you just some of the basic things that you can do with ScriptX, and I'll bring in some scripts that I've already created. Okay, so the first thing with ScriptX is when you add a new script, you have to specify a start and end chainage. So it's sections between that range will be calculated. And to get started, the first thing you want to do is right-click the mouse to open up this menu system. So if you were building up a script from scratch, this is what you would use. So control structures are things like if statements and for loops. Properties allow you to access properties from the cross-section. In fact, I might just open up a cross-section so we can see. Right, so properties might be information about a code or an alignment that exists on the section being processed that I can reference in code, in the script. And then commands are really actions or modifications that you're making to the cross-section. So inserting new codes, modifying existing codes, deleting. And these in themselves are very much like variations, okay? So let's do something very simple. I want to modify the width of the LFPI code. Okay? So all I do is I change this to LFPI, and I put the new width in, let's just say 5 meters, and add update. You can see that's extended it out. Okay. So one cool thing about scripts is you could just be using them to make edits to your cross sections without doing any other fancy stuff. And it's a nice way to sort of group multiple edits in the one area. So what can happen if you're doing lots of modifications, that variation list can grow. And the beauty of using the script is you can put multiple edits in the one area. It might be related to editing a driveway or adding a retaining wall or something like that. I'll just take that one step further just to show you where maybe I'll set up a variable with an expression. So I'm going to do something like take the current width of LFPI and add, say, 2 meters to it. And then I'm going to take that variable and put it into here. Right? So now I've got this expression that's controlling, that's been calculated, and then the expression can have brackets and all sorts of stuff in it. So that value being calculated is then passed into the modification. So it's a very basic way of how scripting works. If I right click, if you're interested, I certainly recommend that you check out the help system. It just shows you all the basics of the programming language. Okay. Now, the thing I'm really excited about is this custom GPT, because this might give us a glimpse into maybe how people might use design software in the future. I mean, how cool would it be if I just asked some AI to do what I want and it did it? That's sort of the dream, right? So let's test it out. I've got a prompt. I'm just going to copy this. I'll talk about it in a sec. So the problem might be this. Let's just say that this left footpath inner code, I want to match it to surface. And currently there's a variation that allows you to match the code to a surface. But let's just say that I wanted to do that by referencing the backer curve here and projecting a slope of, say, 50% or something. And when it finds that surface, that's where I want to put this code. Okay, so currently in the software, there's no way, there's no variation that does that. So I'm going to create a new script, do this along the entire length. And what I'm going to do is right-click and open up the ScriptX GPT. So I'm doing this completely live. This is how it looks. I've got this menu. Just move that out of the way. Okay, so this is all live. This is how it currently looks. So basically, I put the problem in, and I'll read it out in a sec. So I'm just saying, can you write a script that takes a specified code and projects it to a surface with a defined slope? And I'm just saying, hey, we need to specify the reference code that that we're going to reference, and then the slope that I want to project to. So it goes through and it builds this script for me that'll do what I want. It could be the case where I've done some complicated retaining walls, and sometimes there's a bit of back and forth discussion until you get the right script. But then what I can do is just copy that code, and I'm just going to paste it directly in here. And just put a whole bunch of comments in, so it explains how the script works. So the specified code, that's the code I want to edit. So I said LFPI. The surface name is what I'm matching to. And this is SAT NS. And the slope is 50. It's actually interesting because I've done this before, and there's always this little slight variations on what it's done, but it should work. And the code I'm referencing from is LBK, okay? So when I go add update, you can see it's done exactly what I wanted. It's taken that from that code here, allowing me to put a slope in of 50%, and then where it's matched that surface, could be any surface in the drawing, it's put that in there. And I've created a script that allows you to simply batter to a different surface. At the moment, you have to create an intelligent section for that. Okay? If I went and changed the slope to, say, 25, add update, you can see that just updates. So that's pretty cool. And if I really like that script, I could go and save it and maybe use it again for future projects. What I was referring to in the PowerPoint in regards to a UI is you could potentially give this to someone, and rather than your colleague going through and editing directly into the script, they would be provided with a user-friendly interface to input those values that we're after. Okay, so let me delete that. I'll just do one more, and then we'll move on. This is actually one of the first scripts that I created, and it's the driveway layback that I showed in the PowerPoint. So I'm going to bring that in. The way that this script works is the start chain represents where the driveway is going to go. And then what I'm going to do is go File, Insert Script. And so this is in the Common 10, we'll have a folder called ScriptX where you can store these. So I pick the driveway layback and add and build. And I might just, let's open up Model Viewer. It's always good to see this one in 3D. Okay, so there's the driveway layback that's put in, but let's make some edits to the script. So that first script that I made to change the width, I'll just reinstate that one. So rebuild. So what this one does was change the width, and you can see that I've changed the width of the footpath, and that driveway is just reconnected there for me. If I go back to the driveway script, I've got some dimensions that I can add or edit. So that transition length is the taper at the end. So currently that's 0.5. Maybe I want to make that 1. So I go add, rebuild. You can see that update. Maybe the driveway width is meant to be 5 meters. So I can add and rebuild that. I made the driveway bigger. So yeah, I think scripting, I think it's going to be really great for just that extra power and flexibility in modifying cross sections. You know, as I said, you might be someone who's interested in this type of thing, writing your own scripts. But as I said, it could well be that you benefit from scripts that others have created, and will certainly add some scripts to the builds as well. The dream in version 25 is to improve this variations form, so you can import your favorite scripts that have been created. But yeah, we've got a lot of plans to revamp this particular form. Okay, so that's enough on ScriptX. I think with ScriptX, it's we probably need to dedicate a full webcast to it, maybe in the new year. Okay, I'm just going to quickly run Project Assist to create the other roads and build the intersections for me. And then I'm going to jump into some of the improvements we've made to Model Builder. And because I'm making a Model Builder model, I'm just going to turn off the line work for total model, so I don't see that. Okay, so if I right-click on models, this is where your design models are stored, and right-click and select Model Builder. This interface is new. So we added I can't remember, it's all a bit of a blur when we added it. I think it was early on in the year. The idea of this interface is it lists all your Model Builder models, and you can quickly edit them, rebuild them. So let's just go straight to create a new model. And I'll just call this one My Model. And this model is going to reference total model. So we tick on is linked to automatic model. So when we upgraded Model Builder, made some improvements to Model Builder, one requested feature was always, can you add some sort of automatic boundary to Model Builder? Because Model Builder models never had any automatic boundary. And so what we did is we came up with this boundary retraction routine that works from the outside of the surface in, looking at your triangles and sort of collapsing those until it finds triangles that are less than this length, or an edge less than that length there. So if I go create new model and select on build, software's built that model for me. And I'm just going to click on the grips and turn on the triangles. So you can see that boundary retraction has worked, and all the triangles that I would have had previously have been cleaned up by the software. So that in itself is quite a useful improvement. So let me just turn off the triangles and the contours there. Now, this improvement I'm going to show you, the next improvement I'm going to show you, probably took a programmers 5 minutes to do, but it saves a lot of time. This one's one of my favorites. So what I'm going to do is make an edit to ViewStreet, and I'm just going to remove some codes from the model. So I'm going to run edit trim by selection and remove the footpath over a particular range. So RFPI I'm going to exclude, and RFPO I'm going to exclude. Now, I guess the issue in older versions, if I wanted to specify an exact point that I wanted to add that edit in, I'd have to insert an extra section, pick that section, go to the endpoint, do the same thing, and there's like 4 steps, and sometimes, you know, it's easy to make a mistake. So the simple fix is this add region button, and I pick exactly where I want to perform the edit, start and end change, and then you can see it's done that for me. And it actually doesn't matter if I pick this point first and then that point. It looks at your alignment and switches it to make sure that the changes are correct. So this one little button, very simple in what it does, but it will be a big improvement for those of you who like to use Model Builder a lot. Quickly putting add editing regions, because adding that section in and sorting out your changes all in one go. Okay, so let's go and close that. And I'll just jump back into that Model Builder interface. So you can see now that I've got a Model Builder model listed here. Another good reason for listing the Model Builder models is some people, you know, we come across this in tech support, they've got like, you know, I've seen 5, 10 Model Builder models, and all of them are set to dynamic, which means that every time the software makes a change, it's going through and rebuilding each of those models, which can, you know, depending on the size of your job, slow things down a bit. So firstly, it's good to be able to see what models are set to dynamic, and really you just want your primary model set to dynamically update. I'm going to turn that off here. So that's the boundary options. As I said, we can turn that boundary retraction off. If I right-click the mouse, you can access some commands. So we can go and edit that model. We can rebuild just that model, open up the Surface Manager, toggle display. If you didn't know, there's an option to copy a Model Builder model, which is really handy, and also delete the model. So Model Builder is all about the top surface design. And last year, we introduced submodels, which is all about what happens underneath. And with machine control systems, and there's more emphasis on building a good submodel and outputting a surface or polylines that can go into these machine control systems. So last year we put the added the Subgrad Model Manager, and inside Model Builder, if a Model Builder model has a submodel, then you can also see it listed here. I'll quickly create one if you've never seen it before, but I'm just going to go create submodel, and even the submodel has that boundary retraction. Okay. And so what it does is, in a 3D environment, it shows all of your cross sections, and the orange surface here is that sub model, right, that we could export out, or we could just export out the strings. The strings are interested in the orange strings here. Okay, and this is a full editor where you can, you know, go to a lot of detail in building the sub base exactly how you want, but still referencing your model builder or total model design, which represents the finished surface level. Okay. Okay, I mentioned that in the last few months we've been refactoring a lot of code, been, you know, improving performance. I'm just going to highlight some of the things we've done by opening up model viewer. So a lot of these improvements in regards to performance, you're going to see in 24.2. And I'm just going to zoom up to the model here, open up the vertical grading editor. It's running out a bit of real estate here. Let's just move things around a bit. Okay. So if I make a change to my design and say to lower the IP, it's probably very hard to tell over a webcast, but this speed improvement is massive. We're doing a very smart update on the model when you make a change. So we're not fully updating the whole model. We're just updating, certain parts of the model. And so what you'll find if you do that on a large subdivision now, do exactly what I'm doing, you're going to notice, the speed is, we should probably write down what the numbers are, but it's a noticeable speed difference. Now, as I'm making a change to the VGE here, this cross-section is running off a different thread. So the VGE isn't waiting for it to finish, right? So it's just running off its own on its own thread. So starting to introduce multi-threading in the software is going to really improve performance as well. So what you'll notice in the latest version is when you close down the VGE or one of the VGEs, and just notice a bit of text that's going to appear because it might happen pretty quick, but it's going to run a full rebuild of the model. What the type of update you would have had previously, right? So if I click on X to close that down, it says please wait building models. It does a full model as opposed to that smart rebuild you now get as you're editing the IPs. So we've tested this on some large subdivisions, moving the IPs around and seeing that that model updating live in 3D really quick is really cool. So we're really happy with the performance improvements that we've added. There was one thing I was going to show in the vertical grading editor. I talked about high DPI and a lot of forms that were looking a bit old and tired. We've gone through and refreshed them. A lot of the old ones now have the hover over images, the resheet command. They're all looking a lot nicer. So part of the high DPI update, we took the opportunity to really fix up some of those old looking forms. I like to mention this to people because it's pretty cool. If you've set up an auto profile, you can tick on this refresh button checkbox. And what that means is if you just hit the refresh in the VGE, it'll recalculate this, rerun this. It's actually really handy. I'm just throwing this in because I like to remind people that it's there. So that refresh button is not just a refresh of the display, but it can also update the auto profile stuff. Okay, so that's enough of this job. I'm just going to close this one down and I'm going to open up another job. This is a rural road. Now, this particular drawing, you can see doesn't have a data folder, and that's because I'm using pack mode. Pack mode's something that we added a few years ago, but we're continually working on it because I guess our dream is to sort of get rid of the data folder, hide it more. And so I want to show you some improvements we've made with pack mode. So I'm going to open up this drawing. So one of those changes is timestamping. So the software's detected civil site design data exists in the project, and it's asking me whether I want to unpack. So it's saying here, this is the time of the data that's currently in the drawing file. Okay, so I'm going to say, yes, I'd like to unpack it. Okay, then it goes ahead and it opens up the data folder, the project. So if I right click on the file name on the Toolspace and go to data pack settings, what I've done with this particular project is I've ticked on store CSD data in the temp folder location. Okay. And if I go, this is new, if I go to tools, I can open the temp folder location. And what we do now is every session, we will create a unique, so when we unpack the data folder, we'll create a unique folder. Put this little GUID at the end here. So that means that every session, I mean, for whatever reason, you might want to go back to a previous session, okay? So we unpack it and it goes into this temporary location here. Now, we also added a clean. So if you're worried about, using up lots of space, you can run this clean command. It'll clean out the temp folder location. Look, one of the great things about storing data in the DWG file is really the move to cloud storage. A lot of people are moving to the cloud to store data, and the data folder syncing to the cloud with all its files is not ideal. So storing everything in the DWG and then just being able to sync the DWG to the cloud is much cleaner. So anyway, our plan is to keep improving data pack. And I just wanted to show you a few of the improvements there. So every data folder is unique to the session, and we've added a clean, an option to open up that temp location there. Okay, so this particular job, it's a real road. I've got a whole bunch of points, and I've COGO points, and I've strung up those points using the create survey strings command. And if I open up the survey string manager, we can take a look at all of the strings that have been strung up, okay, and all the points. And so what I wanted to start off by showing you is how, if you've got some survey data, some strings or some points, how you can reference that data while you're doing the design, okay? So let's start off by having a look in the vertical grading editor. And let's just make this a bit bigger. So what we added this year is a tab called survey. And all I need to do is pick a point group. So my data exists within this point group called Contourable Civil 3D. And what I can do is tick on to show the survey strings and show the survey points. Okay, so all of the strings and the points are being displayed on the VGE. Now, I've used this not only just for existing survey data, but even to represent some design infrastructure. There's one where I wanted to put in some levels on a bridge. So I just strung them up, projected the points onto here, and I was able to reference that. One nice little feature is this search distance, where I could say, set that to 1 meter, add update, and then it's only searching for points and strings 1 meter out from that alignment. Okay, so I think this is a pretty handy feature. If I right-click and open up a cross-section window, we've also done the same here. So there's a tab. Let's go. A tab called Survey. Click on Point Group, and then I can choose to show the survey strings and the point data. Okay. So as I'm working on the design, I can see where the existing, this particular job, I can see where the existing edges were, existing center line, etc. Okay. Okay, so that's showing survey data in the VGE, the cross-section window. Now, I know we're getting close, 10 minutes. I'll probably end up going a little bit over because there's a few more things I want to show. If we get to 3 o'clock and you need to head off, then feel free to do so. But I'll keep powering away anyway. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show, improvements to the Superelevation editor. And so we made these improvements. There was I think there was a blog article on it, but I wanted to show it in a bit of detail because it's actually really handy. this new functionality. If I head over to the super results, and normally when you run this command, and I might do this later, you can set up a Superelevation table, put your design speed in, and the software outputs the results. But what some users don't realize is you can actually just use this to insert extra sections, control the slope, and control the widening of any cross section on your road, and even lerp or linear transition between those points that you've set up. So let me explain. Let's just say at change 0, I want to start off at -3% for my road, and we'll set the left widen to 0 and the right widen to 0. Okay. Now, let's just say that at change 20, I wanted to introduce some widening. And let's just say at change 50, I wanted to change the slope of the left-hand side. And at change 70, I wanted to change the slope of the right-hand side. And at the same time, change the left width. I'm just sort of making stuff up. And then at 100, I want to go back to -3, -3, and no widening. Essentially, I'm using this for, some people use variations to linear transition. So you might not know you can use the Superelevation form here. So what we've changed is previously I could not do this. Every time I wanted to make a change to even say a widen, I would have to specify a slope, which is a bit annoying. I want to change the widen, but I need to enter some numeric values here for the slope. But now what we're allowing you to do is leave cells blank. And so what the software will do is transition from, in this case, the right slope. It will transition from -3 to -7 over that range, okay? So where you just leave it blank and the software will transition, okay? So if I click OK, and I'll just open up a cross-section viewer, I can't really remember what numbers I put in, but we're going to see numbers change and things widen. Okay, there we go, 7% at change 70. So you couldn't do that before in the software. So the key change here is the fact that you can leave cells blank and interpolate. Even if I put in a new change, say 52.34. Oh, sorry. 2.34, the software will add that section in for us and then apply that variation. Okay, and then in this case he'll just do the lerp between those values. So we have been working on a few improvements in the Superelevation form. We did add an option to add the secant points in at the curves. Some guys like to use that, particularly when resolving overlapping curves. And this form is also resizable. Okay. So I'm just going to run some super anyway, because I'm going to show you some more stuff. One thing we do, just to make it a bit easier to read the results, is for every curve, we will change the colors. So here we're entering a new curve, so we've put a grey background on. So just to make it easier to read the results, curve 1, curve 2, etc., going back from grey to white. Okay, so I've added some super. Let's go and click OK out of that. And the next thing I want to do is just show you some of the analysis tools that we've added to Model Viewer. So I'm going to go and open up Model Viewer. I've actually already added some analysis to make it quicker. Okay, so firstly, we added surface analysis. So you can see that my natural surface has got some level shading on it. You couldn't do that before in the software. What you can do now is go to Toggle Display, go to the Analysis tab, which is new. And say if I wanted to change the style of that NS surface, I click on Setup, pick a color scheme, which you can actually create your own color scheme. So I'll just go Land, pick some ranges, we'll go 25, apply, click OK, And then we're displaying that that analysis, which will update any changes to the model. We just hit refresh and it'll update that. Now, the other analysis I'm running, really handy. I come from a background of working at local government, so I used to do a lot of rural road jobs, and you would be checking, vertical profiles and all that type of thing. This next analysis is a vertical profile check. And you can see the red areas are where, I'm getting a bit steep, okay? And, maybe where you're too flat, where you're not getting enough grade, you might also make that red or purple or a different color. So under toggle display analysis, you'll also see we have added vertical profile analysis. Now, this will display on all roads that you're currently displaying. And if I click on setup analysis, it works very much the same as the analysis I just ran on the surface. Pick a color scheme. For an analysis like this, you want to use absolute value. So it doesn't matter if we're negative 20 or positive 20. If it's a high grade, then we want to show it. And that's pretty much it. You just tick it on, and then it'll show you, as you're playing around with the vertical design, this analysis will just update in Model Viewer. And another analysis which I find handy is the cross-section analysis. Works very similar. Pick the color scheme, create the ranges, which you can edit in here. Click on Apply, click OK, and then it'll show the cross sections. And as we get, so out of that Superelevation, you can see as we get into the super, it's sort of turning into orange, a bit darker orange around there. So I think it's great for, rural roads, that type of thing. But that cross-section analysis, I mean, you can use that across a subdivision, if you want to highlight areas that might be too steep or whatever. So I wanted to just mention that one. I don't have enough time to show the catchment analysis. I think we might have a video on it on YouTube, but that is also another new feature that we added to the software. Okay, final improvements I want to show relate to Civil 3D export. So it won't take me long, a couple of minutes to show this. So I'm running on Civil 3D. All the improvements that I've showed today, same for the Bricks CAD, AutoCAD, and Civil Site Design Plus users. But so let me show you the Civil 3D exports. Firstly, if I right-click on the drawing, there's a new command here called Set Civil 3D Styles. Now, I'm not too sure whether this will bring back memories. We added this a while ago, so sort of forget about this. But if you open up a fresh Civil 3D drawing template and ran Civil Site Design, you would get prompted to pick Civil 3D styles, and one would pop up after the other until you'd specified a style that existed. It was quite actually an annoying thing. I mean, we did it because we wanted to know that certain Civil 3D styles existed. Now what we do, if you open up a drawing template that Civil Site Design is unaware of, what we'll do is we'll load, show you this form where you can go in and specify, Civil 3D style you might want to use whenever we create a Civil 3D surface. What styles do you want to use when we output profile views? What styles do you want to use when we create alignments? Okay, so that's all in the one area. If I make a change in here, it will update just for this project, but we can also go set as default. So every other project will adopt the same settings. Okay, so one thing we improved in the software was how we create and update Civil 3D profile views. So if I right-click on road strings, we have create, update Civil 3D profile. Some people like to use the Civil 3D profile output. And so it's using those styles that I would have already set up. And so this is a completely new interface. And all I need to do is go create, update profiles, click a point, and then the software has outputted that. We even do the bands, so we'll even set up the bands for you as well. But that's a Civil 3D profile view. A few years ago, we added the ability to export or create a corridor model. And this is great if you're using the AEC collection and you want to you need a corridor model because you want to go to InfraWorks, Navisworks, or participate in some sort of BIM workflow. For whatever reason, you might want to create a corridor. So we added the corridor export a few years ago, but this year we've really worked on improving the performance of that, outputting it a lot quicker. So let me just show you. If I click on Create Corridor, this is the interface. I name it. I pick the CSD model that I want to output. There's a few extra options here in regards to outputting the model, some styles for the corridor, any alignments that I create. But then all I really need to do is go Create Corridor, pick where the assemblies are going to go, software will create those, and then we'll output the corridor. You can see for this road, it only took a few seconds to build that corridor. So so that's another thing that we've been working on this year. I think that's all that I want to show. There, look, it's been a big year for us. We have added a lot of stuff. There's probably things that I haven't showed you, but these are the things that I the key sort of things that I wanted to show you in this webinar.